week after Wimbledon is where the American hardcourt swing really gets serious. I'm here to preview the Rogers Cup and the Western and Southern Open. Hi guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. I'm going to kick straight into things. So there are two big events coming up over the next fortnight. The Rogers Cup and the Western and Southern Open. Both are ATP and WTA events, so both the men and the women will be competing. The Western and Southern Open takes place in Cincinnati, and each year the men and women alternate between who plays in Montreal and who plays in Toronto for the Rogers Cup. This year the ATP are in Montreal and the WTA are in Toronto. For the men, these are Masters 1000 events, and for the women they are Premier Mandatory events, so they are the highest caliber of tournament outside Grand Slams. The ATP stars are dropping like flies. I cannot remember the last time there were this many injuries on the ATP tour. We saw a lot hit at Wimbledon and it has carried over into the hardcourt swing. So we'll take a quick look at the notable absences from the Rogers Cup and Cincinnati. Novak Djokovic is the big one, fairly recently the world number one, but has been struggling of late, and he pulled out of his Wimbledon quarterfinal with Thomas Berdych after dropping the first set with an elbow injury. Djokovic has ended his season full stop, will not be playing again until 2018. Given his struggles of late, I don't think anyone can say it's a bad decision. He needs to rest, he needs to find his way again. So I don't think anyone can say it's a bad decision. I think the timing of it is unfortunate because he had just brought Andre Agassi onto his coaching team. There seemed to be a good vibe there. He did look more promising than he had done in a while heading into Wimbledon. So comes as a bit of a blow, but I don't think a long period of rest can do anything detrimental to Djokovic. Stan Wawrinka, the defending US Open champion, is now out for the rest of the season as well. He is undergoing knee surgery for an injury we saw him struggling with in the first round at Wimbledon when he lost to Daniil Medvedev. He'd previously announced he was out of both the Rogers Cup and the Western and Southern Open before saying that he was pulling the plug on the entire season, so that's Wawrinka out of play. Wimbledon finalist Marin Cilic is also pulled out of the Rogers Cup with an adductor injury. Nothing related to his issues in the Wimbledon final, but it's bad news for Cilic, who is defending finalist points in Cincinnati the week afterwards. So he's going in there with no competitive match practice since Wimbledon. That's a long break and a massive title to defend. It was his first Masters 1000 trophy. And finally, for the men, Andy Murray, the world number one, out with a hip injury from the Rogers Cup. He didn't play the events last season because he skipped to be prepared for the Rio Olympics, which fell between Rogers Cup and the Western and Southern Open last season. But in a similar way to Cilic, Cincinnati is a big week for Murray because he's defending finalist points. Maria Sharapova, who was awarded a wildcard to the event, has had to pull out due to injury. She didn't compete at Wimbledon or in any of the grass court season because of injury, and after one match in Stanford decided to pull the plug. So no Sharapova in the Rogers Cup, but she has a wildcard for Cincinnati. So as a brief preview to the coming fortnight, I'm going to give you 5 WTA top 10 players and 5 ATP top 10 players who I think you should be keeping an eye on over the coming weeks, and give you a bit of validation as to why. Starting with the WTA and with the current world number one, Karolina Pliskova, who attained that status after she'd fallen in the Wimbledon second round and Simona Halep bowed out in the quarters. Pliskova lost in the Rogers Cup third round last season to Halep, but won Cincinnati, beating Angelique Kerber in the final and stopping her from getting to the top of the rankings. So given that she is defending 1,000 ranking points in a couple of weeks' time, and Simona Halep, the world number two, is hot on her heels, there is a significant amount of pressure for Pliskova heading into the next fortnight. Also because she is world number one, and she's a slamless world number one as well. Not the first on the women's tour in recent times. I am among those, for the time being, who feel that if a player has not won a Grand Slam, then they should not be able to hold the number one ranking. I just feel as though the best in the world should be winning the best tournaments in the world. I love Pliskova as a player, I love watching her play, I think that she has a great game, and clearly she deserves to be at the top of the rankings because she has gained enough points to be there. And if she had a Grand Slam title to her name, I would have no problem at all with her being the world number one. She did come close, she was one set away at the US Open last season. Maybe they could put a system in place where you are frozen at number two until you own a major title, and the next highest ranked player who has a major title owns the top ranking until you can win one and step ahead. But anyway, I digress. I just remember saying that I would comment on this at some point. There is immediate pressure for Pliskova to perform, and that is going to be interesting because before, the challenges for her have been very physical. Is her movement good enough? Can she hit precise shots often enough to really make an impact? And now the focus shifts to the mental aspect and whether Pliskova can handle the enormity of being the best player in the world and being the woman to beat, pretty much. Moving on to world number two, Simona Halep, who won the Rogers Cup last season, beating Madison Keys in the final, but lost in the Cincinnati semi-finals to Angelique Kerber. Halep's partnership with Darren Cahill is still going strong after they had a great clay court season, the best part of Halep's year without question, going deep at premier events, making the final of the French Open and coming games away from taking the title. After that, it was an iffy showing at Wimbledon. She didn't produce her best tennis in going down in the quarters to Johanna Konta. But in recent years, Halep has been bringing her best tennis to the American hard court swing. Last season, she went down in the quarterfinals of the US Open to Serena Williams in 3 sets. She made the semi-finals the year before that, and Kerber won the US Open last season, a counterpuncher like Halep, so it shows that it can be done. And when Halep is on song, she has the mentality, she has the game, she has the confidence to do big things, so keep an eye on Halep. World number 3, Angelique Kerber, is next on the list. She made the semi-finals at the Rogers Cup last season, losing to Halep, and the final in Cincinnati, obviously losing to Pliskova. After winning 2 Grand Slams last season and really making a surprising breakthrough, Kerber has had a pretty nightmarish season so far this year, has yet to make an impact on any stage, has looked really lacking in confidence. However, she did have a pretty promising Wimbledon after such an awful period of time. Her campaign ended only in the 4th round to eventual champion Garbiñe Muguruza, and that took 3 sets. Something very interesting that happened recently was a post Kerber put up on Instagram of her own accord, under no pressure to do this. She stated, "I've had some setbacks this year, but I accept this as part of a bigger process. Over the past few weeks, I've trained as hard as I could and pushed myself to the limit to give myself the best chance at the upcoming tournaments." So a statement that she chose to put out there, a statement of clear intent, and also shows some mental strength that has been missing from a lot of her matches recently. She's looked at the situation she's been in and chosen to accept it and to move on, to use it as a motivation rather than something that's going to drag her down. The end of the season is always harder for those who've had success throughout the year to sustain their form. You can't say that Kerber's had any particular success so far this year, so this could be her time to rise up. Now, there are some opportunities coming up for world number 4 Garbiñe Muguruza, our Wimbledon champion. She did not play at the Rogers Cup last season, and she reached the semi-finals in Cincinnati, where she fell to Pliskova. Now, you can look back at my other videos where I've spoken a lot about Muguruza recently for comparisons on her French Open win last season and her Wimbledon win this season. Last season in Roland Garros, she didn't seem prepared for it, she wasn't in great form, came out, won the slam, and then went on a terrible run of results and tournaments. And now she seems very more at peace with her situation. After Wimbledon, she seemed very confident that she had matured since Paris last season, seemed confident of facing the challenge of progressing as a multiple-time Grand Slam champion. And as she began her campaign in Stanford this week, she really kind of showed where her confidence levels are at. She thrashed Kayla Day 6-2, 6-love in the first round, and that's good preparation for her going into a big fortnight ahead where there are opportunities for ranking points and then a test to see how she can cope with the pressure. It's interesting in tennis watching bad situations turn into eventual good, and I think the hard time that she went through after her French Open victory could make a difference for Muguruza now she's had that experience, that learning curve. For our fifth player, we skip down to world number 9, where Venus Williams, the Wimbledon finalist, currently resides. Major opportunities for Venus coming up. She made the 3rd round at the Rogers Cup last season, falling to Keys, and didn't even play Cincinnati. Venus has gone back to playing her best tennis at the Slams, which is great for her at this point in her career. They are the most important events. Clearly, they are her main focus, but the path is open, really, for her to make some deep runs at premier events if she brings her best tennis. She showed at Wimbledon, she showed at the Australian Open that she is one of the players to beat, and there are few women who could stand in her way if she brought 100%. At the US Open last season, she held match point over Pliskova in the 4th round. Pliskova went on to beat Serena Williams in the semi-finals. So yeah, there's not much more to say, really. Venus has a great A-game, and if she brings it, we could be seeing some silverware for the American. And heading over to the rather depleted ATP Tour, and I am going to start with world number 1 Andy Murray, because there is a possibility that he will still play Cincinnati, and a lot of the top 10 and top 20 even are plagued by injury right now. So in 2016, Murray didn't play the Rogers Cup because of Olympic prep, and he made the Cincinnati final, falling to Cilic. So his iffy and injury-marred Wimbledon ended in limp fashion when he lost to Sam Querrey in 5 sets, 6-1, 6-1 in the final 2 in the quarterfinals. Now that he's skipping Canada, Murray will face immediate ranking points pressure when he moves on to Cincinnati, but he's basically guaranteed to lose the top ranking anyway, so I can't see him getting too het up over that. For the rest of the season, he has 5,460 ranking points to defend. Meanwhile, the guy on his heels only has 360 points to defend for the whole rest of the season, so we can kind of see how that one's going to go. So the whole battle for number 1 thing, I can't really see it bothering Murray too much, but preparation for the US Open is important. Every Grand Slam is an opportunity for someone of his caliber. The field is depleted, so it will be interesting to see if the more matches Murray can get under his belt, the more he can find his feet again on the court. However, if he isn't fully fit physically, then it's not a good idea for him to be playing at all. World number 2, Rafael Nadal, next on the watch list. He will be the top-ranked player in the world once more if he reaches the semi-finals or better at the Rogers Cup. He did not play this event last season because of injury, and in Cincinnati he made only the 3rd round when he fell to Borna Coric. Our most recent tennis memory of Nadal is, of course, his 4th round Wimbledon loss to Gilles Muller, which came deep in the 5th set of an epic encounter. Nadal has lost fairly early, a lot at Wimbledon in recent times, and this is the first time in a while that an upset has not had the doubters and retire criers out in force, which testifies to Nadal's efficiency and dominance so far this season. He won his 10th Roland Garros crown, he's been going deep at all the big events pretty much. There are 2 men who are just absolutely dominating the men's tour right now. One is Nadal and the other is our next player, world number 3, Roger Federer, fresh off winning an 8th Wimbledon crown and a record 19th Grand Slam title. Federer did not play the Rogers Cup last season, and he did not play the Western and Southern Open last season. He has no ranking points to defend for the rest of the year. It's just been a dream for Federer this season. He has had match point in every single clash he has contested. He's playing the Rogers Cup for the first time since 2011, and he was the 2-time defending champion at Cincinnati before skipping with injury last season. The US Open is generally the Grand Slam where a more unexpected champion is crowned, and an end-of-season drop-off for Federer is possible. But there's a lot of injury, a lot of absences. There's not a massive amount of real competition for Federer on tour right now the way he is playing, because he's simply on fire. His mentality is superb right now. He is there for the big moments, so if he's going to lose, I think it's probably more likely it happens in this coming fortnight than at the US Open. However, he's playing to chase the number 1 ranking. Nadal is a good few ranking points ahead of him right now, so I would be fairly surprised if he suffered some early losses. For our fourth player, we're skipping down to world number 8, where we find Alexander Zverev, aged 20. Looking back to this time last season is a testament to how much Zverev has progressed, because he entered both the Rogers Cup and Cincinnati and fell in the first round on both occasions. He is now a 4-time ATP title winner, and he has been making a steady progression, with his latest title his first at a Masters 1000 event that came in Rome and made him the only player not named Nadal or Federer to win a Masters 1000 trophy this season, which is a pretty big accomplishment to have when you consider that Murray and Djokovic have played the majority of the season, and Wawrinka and all the other top players who are generally in contention for these prizes. So with this smooth progression, he is definitely a player that can take advantage of the wobbles happening on tour right now and the obvious absences, and he has now brought on board to his coaching team Juan Carlos Ferrero, a former world number 1 and major champion, to work alongside his father. That kind of positivity can only have a good impact on the tennis court. And our fifth player is world number 9, Kei Nishikori, who made the final of the Rogers Cup last season, falling to Djokovic, and the third round in Cincinnati, falling to Bernard Tomic. Nishikori hasn't done anything stunning so far this season, as his fallen ranking suggests, but he does tend to bring his better tennis at the tail end of a season. I think this probably has something to do with the fact that he's injured a lot and therefore isn't playing as much throughout the rest of the year. Therefore, when other top players are feeling the strain a little bit more, Nishikori is more fresh and ready to make an impact. He has a game that translates well to all surfaces, so the conditions are great for him. Obviously, he made his only major final at the US Open in 2014. He beat Murray there last season. He's made several deep runs at events in the American hardcourt swing. Obviously, there's ranking points pressure at the Rogers Cup, but there is a depleted field as well, and it would be difficult to imagine the whole year going by without someone as talented as Nishikori doing something quite notable. He is in Washington this week and has already beaten Juan Martín del Potro, who is a former US Open champion, so to use a very clichéic phrase, this could be Nishikori's time to shine. So there we go. Thank you for watching. Thank you to all subscribers who continually come back to the channel. I really want to hear your thoughts on all things Cincinnati, Montreal, Toronto. It's really annoying and confusing that I have to mention both those names. Also, let me know your thoughts on Novak Djokovic choosing to skip the rest of the season. Are you happy? Do you think it's a good thing for him? Also, Karolina Pliskova being world number 1 without a Grand Slam title, should that be allowed to happen? And how do you think she will respond under the pressure of being the top ranked player in the world? If you have any other players that you think I should have given a mention, put them in the comments section and let everyone know why you think we should be keeping an eye on them over the coming fortnight. And yes, I go away tomorrow for a fortnight with no Wi-Fi again, so if I'm slow replying to comments, I'm sorry. Obviously I won't have new content over the next 2 weeks, but once I'm back I won't be going away for a long period of time again for a very long time, which is quite sad. So we should be back to normal after that. I will keep you updated, so follow me on Twitter. And yes, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to share it with people. And thank you for giving up your time to watch this video. Enjoy the upcoming tournaments, and I'll see you again soon.